Folks, welcome on back. Today is not Tuesday, but rather today is Monday, our new start day, new start time here at 12 o'clock shortly after. Welcome back for another fantastic edition of our Traders Talk Workshop. My name is Josh Levitan. Great to have all of our students and members alike inside our live trading room. I see here Kathleen, Brad, Grant, Michael, Leda, have all of our students right now in chat, all of our gold, platinum, and diamond C2 students. Actually, really quick shout out to begin. I'm going to get it out right out the gate here. So what a lovely message to receive just a moment ago. And I'm just saying it because it made my freaking day. It was just incredible to see from one of our students here, Margaret. And, she just chatted me earlier. I'm just trying to get the little snapshot here, basically showing you what she said. Basically said, it was a good class this morning. And, hey, I'm always my harshest critic when we teach our classes. There's always something new to go through each and every time. So we invite all of our students, whether you're a new student or a longtime attendee, longtime member or student of CTU, to take part in. So I know that, and not always every class do I roll everything off the tongue well. Not everything is explained 100% the way I'd probably want it to be. We're all humans. Well, Margaret, what a message from her this morning. She said this before, great class this morning, SOUN, just before the stock will go over, illustrated perfectly your points in real time, making it so much easier to understand. I love the way, this is the thing, I love the way longtime C2 members attend phase one classes. Our curriculum is broken up into 3 phases, 1, 2, 3. So phase 3, Fausto and then myself will do the advanced trading class. Phase 1 is really our beginner class, but that's not beginner to the stock market. We actually have students and members that have been with CTU for 15, 20 plus years following the market in their own right that join us. And, the purpose of phase 1 is not just for those members that are new students, but it's also for longtime members to kind of just learn something a little bit different or a little bit new each and every time. So Margaret said, impressed me so much when I first joined CTU last year, and it speaks volumes, no pun intended, for the value of the classes. Thank you. Well, thank you, Margaret, very much for that message. Again, I truly mean it. I'm not just saying it. That made my day, may have made my week. Today's only Monday, so we'll see how far that can take me at least here. But I will say altogether, that was such a great comment from Margaret, because again, it wasn't just her. It was Barbara, it was Grant, it was Kathleen, it was all of our members that it's not like their first class with us here, first month. They've been with us for years. So I always appreciate their participation, and so I want to show that message there to begin. All right, now with that in mind, SOUN stock right here, that's what we were kind of going over in class, and the stock that she was commenting on just before. So, had a nice little move earlier today. It's kind of just a side list stock, SoundHound AI. It's one that we've traded really well on before. I've done, has seen make a pretty extraordinary move before in the past. But I'll tell you, our better focus in pre-market, at least, was on this thing, GNLN. There were a couple of other trades, at least after the open, that we had our eyes on there too. I know the HE trade was a good short at first. We had the SXTP that popped, PSIG. But ultimately, at least, I want to go back to SOUN because that was a great example that we went over mainly in class. But really, we'll cover the head-to-toe move on the stock, not just that little sequence that we had. Because look what happened right now as it's happening in real time. Held resistance once again, the same level that we were talking about in our phase 1 stock course, and then just dropped right back down. But let's go over this move in full. I didn't really cover this move from 9:30 from the market open as much then. So, hey, this stock wasn't moving that great in pre-market, wasn't on our pre-market list, wasn't on our morning watch list. So it's not like you had a lot of time to prep for this trade. Honestly, here's the thing. There wasn't a lot of time to prep for many of these stocks this morning, and you never really hear me say that. What I mean by that is for the stocks that did pop and run, they kind of took off right out the gate when the market opened up. They may not have been on our pre-market watch list, on our morning watch list, so it gave us less time to prepare on them. Or if it was a pre-market stock, the GNLN, which we'll get to, that thing just never pulled back. So as much as you wanted to prepare and plan for that, it just didn't give you anything that you wanted. So let's go over SOUN, at least from by the time the market did open up. And then we'll, analyze it all together as a team, go over where the biggest levels are, the best entries were on this trade. So here's the level 4. And right away, I'll just mention, hey, if this were to have dropped down, you had support here at 450. About 105,000 plus shares out there on the ask, or I'm sorry, out there on the bid. That's the bid right there, pardon me. But let's just say looking at it from this view, where do we have our darkest shade of red? Where's our boldest, darkest shade of red? If you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, all of our social media streams right now, make sure to follow us, that being at cybertradingu. You'll see that pop up on the lower left there, at cybertradingu. If you're new to any of our social media streams or platforms all alike, we mainly do all of our education, our videos on YouTube, but also make sure to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, etc. But where do we have our largest level here, especially for our students like Tom and Robert and Margaret, Grant and Jeff, Michael? Yeah, 520, right? I mean, here, I'll read you the size, but if I'm just asking for the darkest, boldest red, right here, right? Now, I will say, I think my dad's like half colorblind, so eventually these eyes are probably going to give out too at some point. This might be tougher for me to read over time, but otherwise, at least if you could see here pretty vividly in color, you got 520, about a 300,000 share sell order. This is about 295,000 plus shares, or 294 plus, right there at 520. So that is your clear resistance at first. At first, initially, that's your clear resistance. After that, you got 550, right? That's pretty easy on the eyes. Now, though, I will say there's a couple of other prices here that we need to focus on. Now, this is information that I teach. I sum up here in Traders Talk. I give it to you really quick, rattle it off like a machine gun. But here in the class that we teach, the Phase 2 stock course, the more intermediate class I teach, that's where I could break this down a lot more thorough, especially on level 4 here. But, aside from the lines that are going across the heat map, where do you see a big level on this page? Where is there a big level on this entire window, on this entire heat map here? From Gerhard, really quick in between as everyone else answers, where can you play around with level 4? Can't really play around with it for free as much. I mean, yes, you can. Like if you're on Thinkorswim platform, if you have a Thinkorswim account, you can get Bookmap, it's called, Bookmap. I got a monotone voice there, so Bookmap. But ask them about it. It's $40 a month for everything. But if you want to get it for free, they'll let you play around with it on like Microsoft, I think. That's the only stock they'll let you show. But you can play around with it at least there. Then also really quick from Robbie, who had asked just beforehand, what do the various colored lines mean? So those are all orders out there on the bid or on the ask. Support resistance. I teach that a lot more thorough, Robbie, in the Phase 1 classes that you have. So you're a part of the Phase 1 curriculum. I know that you were in there earlier with me. I will show it for everyone. I'm in teacher mode right now. So you can actually go back to the June recordings, the June class recordings. I did a full 60-minute class on this program, level 4. Bookmap, as it's formally known as. But, that's where I showed every thing in full, that one class there. It's Phase 1, Class 12. Now, where do we have big levels otherwise aside from those colored lines? So outside of the colored lines for members that attended that class, Laureen, Grant, Michael, Robert, Margaret, seen 5. Now, 5 you should assume is a big level. You should assume it to be. It's like, again, I always say it here in Traders Talk, you get lost in the woods, you find your way home, you look up to the North Star, you find your way home. Our North Star, without looking at this program, is whole numbers. It would be a dollar price level, like $5. It would be $6. It would be $4. Whole number levels, whole dollar number levels. But look at what's on level 4, though. This is what makes it, confirms it. This is, definitive. There is a bunch of volume that was built up here. Just from the first 10 minutes of consolidation, chopping around. Well, there's clearly, by a large margin, a lot of volume filled at 5, more compared to any other price above it, below it. So 5 is a key level to work off of here in the sequence. Like after 9:45 and 9:46 in the morning, this becomes a clear level to try and utilize. Now, there's another level to work off of, though. So all of us had answered 5 so far. Is there another level that we could be focused in on here? Not a line, not an orange line. I'll tell you what, it's not on the column on the right side. So, where do we have a big level, folks? For all of us here in chat on YouTube, feel free to participate as well. But for Dave, for Grant, for Alex, for Dominic, Iqbal, and all of our students here, what do we got? Anything good? Not trying to toss a curveball to you here. So the answer is not as if there's no other levels. Sometimes you might see me toss a curveball to you. We went over 5 already, Lawrence. There we go. Lee, right there. You said the opening print, right? Maybe it's not as notable because there's like 2 dots. This isn't as big as this one. But it's to say when the market opens up at 9:30 in the morning, there's going to be a large transaction that pops up on the tape. Well, hey, let's just compare. Let's just talk about size, right? 196,000 shares filled at 487. All right. Well, granted, 520 is still pretty big. That's larger, about 295,000 shares. This is 196,000 shares. It's still bigger, almost double the size of this at least. So granted, is like the opening print like bigger than what's out there, 520? No, but that's still a huge level to work off of though, heading into the morning, heading into the trading session. And here's the thing, even if you caught this stock right here, even if you turned over to the stock and it was right here at 5, well, this is where we just covered this in class, not in this sequence here, but we covered it at 532. When a stock breaks above resistance and it runs off of it, we'd like to think initially on the first test of it again, that resistance should flip into what, folks? What do we got? Robert saying, oh, yeah, right there, right? A little light bulb turning on. I love when those light bulbs turn on, have turned on for me in the past. For any of my brand new students here of CTU, I think I said this to someone in particular last week. I was on a introductory call with them, and I was saying to them, like, I'm envious of where you are in your trading journey, because obviously you're going to make mistakes at first. But when you first fall in love with trading, there's like a big honeymoon phase. And obviously, I still love trading right now after doing this for 10 years. But new members like Robert, they kind of having those brighter light bulbs turn on in the back of their head, like, oh man, finally those like points are clicking. Yeah, resistance flipping into support, right? Booker, Barbara, Thomas, Rhonda, Brian, Amy, all of us here in chat saying it right now. So hey, the same could go for 5 here, but it definitely could go for this at 487, right? It broke over this clean, clear move. Resistance should flip, right? Let's find out. Well, it did not pull back, so it did not drop that low. It held the higher lows, and eventually it rebroke over 5, right? So this was strong enough to not drop as far. I like to do these full reviews almost like not knowing the micro details as I do it, because it's not like I have egg on my face here. It's to say that this would have made a great buying opportunity. It just didn't drop that low. Happens. Well, the more it holds higher lows and it can look to get away from this big volume area, then the same big move can be, internalized. It could be, thought of here over time. So obviously it made that run. But then even here, as we came off class, I was saying before, right? This was actually a great opportunity to try and look for continuation. This stock just earlier pulled back up. It held another higher low here, and then it tried to break above resistance at 530, 532 just about. It was great chart resistance from earlier here. I don't think that there was really an iceberg order out there. If we go back over this here in Bookmap, again, our next level, like big level, was 550. So, this was moving up. It was trying. There was all the reason to think that if this were to nip back above 530 here when we were watching it in class, that it could run up higher, hit that 550, maybe even more. All right, well, it goes to what we always say. It goes to what Margaret was so happy to see in class, because, it's just the points that we're making in real time. This is Captain Hindsight right here, right? You know that out of me if you've been watching Traders Talk. I like to make that a point. This is easy to go over in hindsight. But if this is not your first time joining us here, then you know that we talk about all of these talking points each and every week. It's the same patterns every week. So something's got to give, right? And here, this was a great pattern to realize live, because in class, well, this provided a great entry. This was a great thought to try and jump in off this breakout from resistance. There wasn't really much resistance ahead until that 550. So granted, if there was like a 95,000, 150,000 share seller right here, I wouldn't be as jumpy. But this could have been a great entry. But here's the thing, resistance needs to flip into support there if it's going to try and continue. It held above it for a few candles, but if it's not making that big move off of that big level, you're getting a big move just the other way. Not only that, but look what became perfect resistance after. Bam, right back down. And, hey, at this point now, we were talking about resistance where? 5? This might pull back down to 5 here after that if it breaks below that. What do we have? We had that 487. We'll watch this together as we continue Traders Talk, or even later on as you join us in the Phase 1 stock course. We'll probably follow up on this trade later on and see where this lands, but this clearly is not a good sign. Actually, do my homework now. What the hell? This is such a good example right here. This is as pristine as it gets. All right, little sneak peek for class coming up. If you're joining us, well, stay tuned. I have a lot more to dig into with this pattern here, but for all of us on YouTube, on social media, obviously, if you're inside our live trading room, I want you to answer this. What chart pattern does this look like? This whole thing, it's kind of like a Captain Hindsight pattern because you're looking at what happens a little bit after the fact. It, dropped, but what pattern does this definitely resemble? Give everyone a little bit to answer here right now in chat, on YouTube, etc. Finish my coffee. We switched away from the energy drinks. We said, enough with the energy drinks. It's hurting my liver a little too much. Get back on the regular coffee. You just brush your teeth a third time throughout the day, and that's it. All right, what do we got? Head and shoulders, right? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, this is as clear as day. You got, if I can use my pen here, shoulder, head, smiley face if you see it. Now, typically with the head and shoulders pattern, it leads to a drop because once the neckline breaks, bam. So that's as bright as day. I'm going to just save that so I can go over that a lot further in detail later on. But that was a nice little touch there. All right, let's go through a couple comments here. I do have some questions to go through from chat, from email as well. I do want to go over the GNLN as well. That was like the shiny object in the room in pre-market earlier this morning. I actually had a student ask me about that. Ian says some good research on AI hardware and or hardware. Head and shoulders came out from nowhere. I think he may have mixed up a couple comments there, but head and shoulders I see in his answer there. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I want to go over that GNLN. Let's do that. I'll kill a question here as we go through. We'll answer a question as we go through. So what do we have here? That was on the PSIG. That's a whole other story there. PSIG there. All right, this is, I think, the one from Brian, right? I think, Brian, you're asking about the BNL or the GNLN there. So he was basically asking, Josh, I see the news, but why did it rocket to near $10? To him, it just didn't make any sense, right? Didn't make any sense to me either. I agree. That's the first thing, right? Not every stock is going to make a move when news comes out. That's the first thing. That's where we always tell you, don't just buy because news comes out. I want to yank my own leash here as I make this next comment because I don't want to disrespect anyone or I don't want anyone to think I'm talking negatively about them or of their trading, but facts are facts, right? Grass is green, sky is blue. And guys, if you're jumping in a trade just because a stock is going up, I want you to come back to me and tell me out of 100 trades that you do that on, what your profit loss is. And I want you to tell me out of 100 trades, what your win loss is. Right? Right. That's the thing, because if you do that on every time that you do that, you're going to get washed out eventually, right? And not just eventually, you're going to get washed out sooner than you would later. So just because this stock pops, just because news comes out, you can't just jump in, right? Like, that's poor entry management. Doesn't matter if it's this, doesn't matter if it's something else. Doesn't matter if I took the trade or doesn't matter if I didn't take the trade. If you jump into a stock solely because it's going up, that is the same thing as like just going to the casino and throwing it on black just because. Just because. So, again, I have no one in mind when I say that. I'm just simply thinking of, actually, I have someone in mind when I think about that. I'm thinking about myself. I'm giving you the selfish Josh, the trader answer here, because I don't have a statistic to give you, but I could definitely tell you, loosely speaking, out of the 100 trades I were to take on stocks that just pop up like this, It's definitely not a high probability of me making money. And if it is, maybe I'm just getting out very quickly after I get in. You just scalp, 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 scalp. If you do that, all right, you can make money, right? But you can't ask yourself, well, like, why is it going up that much higher after I got out? Well, it's because it's super high risk. So the thing is this: when a stock makes a pop to start, like this started to break out. Okay. Right away, I think like as this stock took off, I swear to you, I made a comment, I think, in the trading room earlier today. I was, man, I wish I could find it here. It's from earlier in the morning, right when I logged in, but basically alluding to the fact like, I'm not going to try and jump into something just to jump in. It's got to have a good spread, it's got to have good liquidity on the book. And if it does, hey, I'm all about it, especially for pre-market where everyone knows here that you can't set your stops in pre-market, right? So, you have no seatbelt. You literally can't set a stop order. So it's to mention that for as much as this pops, all right, literally as more as it goes up and up and up and up, I do become interested because I am thinking much like we covered. All right, well, resistance could flip into support, right? Right? Here's the heat map for GNLN. So when it popped up to like 620-ish, 650-ish here, like I was thinking, all right, if it pulls back, retraces, maybe get an entry around 5, maybe, I don't know. You don't want to get a full retracement down. If you get the Christmas tree pattern, it's going to likely keep going lower. So you really don't want that. But in review, this stock gave us minimal pullbacks on this entry, right? Very little pullbacks on this entire move up. This went from 250 to $10 in like 10 minutes. I'll congratulate anyone if they gambled and made money on this. And I'm not just saying that in a pessimistic way. I'll always be a cheerleader in our trading room. But above being a cheerleader, I'm a coach, I'm an instructor. And I have to try and be that above a trader, honestly. That's where I have to yank my own leash personally and be like, hey, Josh, don't focus as much on trading. Let's focus on working and, at least being a teacher. So that's where I say, no matter what, I'm going to give you the truth, right? So I'll congratulate anyone that made money on this trade. I will root everyone on. But if anyone here was frustrated that they didn't make money on this stock as it rocketed, it's not even to say I don't blame you. It's to say I agree with you. Like this, and not to say agree in the sense of frustration. I agree that there is minimal entry on this trade. Based on strategy, there was one entry for me based on strategy. And I only realized that much after the fact. It was only much after the fact. Like when it kept going up, I realized it. So on the GNLN here, let's see, where was it? No, it was even before that. Yeah, here we go. Here, this is it. So I realized this after the fact. This kept going up without me. I said, all right, let me actually go back on this thing. Was there actually an entry on this? I'm very lackadaisical this morning. Today's not Tuesday. Today's Monday, right? It's a new start daytime for Traders Talk. So normally on Mondays, folks, you catch me here. I got my feet kicked up. You know what I mean? Like I'm not really a gunslinger out there on a Monday morning, especially coming off of earnings season. We're practically done with earnings season. We got a couple more smaller caps this week, but that's it. I know NVIDIA. That's kind of out on its own island. But just to say at least that we're done with earnings season. It's a Monday. It's a summer Monday, right? We're in the dog days of summer. We always say like holidays are slow and whatnot, but like this month, there are no holidays. And for that reason, families go on vacation. Guess who's going on vacation at the end of this week? Not me, Fausto. I wish I was going on vacation. But no, to say at least that here, I'm not so, trigger happy, but I realized this after the fact. Where do we have a big volume level looking at this entire window? I have the heat map turned off even. I'm not even showing the heat map. It's deactivated here. So where do we have a big volume level looking at this picture, looking at this entire window, every, inch and particle of this monitor here? What do we got? From Charlene, 670. Laureen says 680. Gerhard, Robert, pretty much all green, same area, right? You're pretty much right there, all in greens. 675, right? 676, 675, split down the middle. All right, draw a line there, right? That clearly sticks out. Out of all of this run up, it wasn't trading nearly that type of volume when it was at $4, $5, $6. But here, specifically at this price, this becomes a clear level to work off of going into the next sequence. Now, again, I realized this after the fact. I'm literally Captain Hindsight on this one for you guys here. I didn't take this trade, but hey, broke above resistance. Hey, resistance became support. And from there, my friends, it took off. So that's what led to the run up afterwards. When it was already up here, I was looking for a pullback just naturally. So I didn't get it. I was looking for more of a drawback anyway. So it just kept nipping this level. Then bam, flipped into support. Bam, it ran higher. And again, just to show that, again, as far as the contrast in volume, look at that difference in this sequence here, right? It's not a long sequence. It's a very short-lived sequence time-wise, but this is a clear difference in the volume traded, so that becomes a big level here, right? So I wanted to go over that because, to the naked eye, if you missed out on that move, the more it goes up, it should naturally upset you that, yeah, you missed out on a big opportunity. That's like just innate human thought process, emotions coming to play. The more any stock goes up for me, I feel that way. The more this kept going up, of course, I felt a little like, shit, come on. Like, really, without me? Come on. But as much as I may think that, I have to yank my own leash and also discuss the other truths and realities here on this move. This is during pre-market. So in a more dangerous environment, I want to be even more confident with my entry and more confident with my risk management. So again, if this stock had a better spread, I would have been interested in taking an entry maybe as it moved up more, or if there was another level that we could have went through. Just point being is that it didn't have that, right? I'm not going to get all worked up over things I can't control. So I got two choices. I could either risk money on this trade or I don't have to risk money on this trade. So if you don't take this trade, well, again, there are two things that you could do. You could either beat yourself up over it by crying, like, I missed out on this. Or you could say, all right, what's the next move? Hey, it's only 8:40 in the morning. What if there's another stock that pops like this, right? Because much like we talk about here in our trading room mainly, and in Traders Talk, our workshop every week here, we'll try and cover it, but it's an everyday talking point. Once there's a stock that does make a big pop and run, once you get one of these crazies out there up like 300, 400%, there's a very good chance you're going to get others that will make a pop. That'll make their own move up, whatever it is, off of news, off of not news. So you don't want to just jump in because you're going to blow up your account otherwise, right? And I'm not trying to call anyone out here, and I have literally no one in mind when I say the following. But if anyone here in our trading room can confidently come to me right now or afterwards and say, Josh, I jump into trades when they often just move up, and I jump in, and here are my statistics, and I make more money than I lose money, and you'd be a first in 10 years. I'm sorry, you'd be a first in 10 years for me. And I guess something's got to give eventually. There'll be someone, but I don't want to be the minority rather than I would be the majority in this case, right? I want to focus on patterns and volume and order flow and trends that more often than not give me the chance to make money. So if I don't take this trade, which I didn't take this trade, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm going to do my best to try not to beat myself up over it, especially the more it goes up. So with that, hey, there were other moves out there. We were focused on the MRIN. We were focused on SHOT. We were focused on PSIG. Is this a NASDAQ stock now? Is that the news out on this thing? Is that the case on PSIG? I had an issue trading this stock this morning because it was listed as OTC earlier. But right now, as I'm talking to you, now it's listed on NASDAQ. Well, was that the news this morning that they became listed on NASDAQ? Maybe TradeStation had to make the switch. Well, I delayed data on this thing this morning. So unfortunately, for as much as this did move up after the market opened up, this was another example of a stock I personally just had to kind of put in the paper shredder and just move away from, because this was actually listed earlier today as an OTC stock. and this was delayed by 15 minutes data. Right now, yeah, this is real time right now. This is real time live, 12:37 Eastern as we're talking just about. So that had to have been it. Well, you know what? Hey, I don't have any levels drawn on this stock here today. I have the book map open here, but I didn't go over it with anyone earlier before. I'd love to recap this move with you guys. As far as like if anyone did trade this, if anyone had the data for the OTC stuff, where could you have taken this trade, right? I'm going to answer Gerhard's question coming up right next here. Just I want to ask everyone here on this though first. All right, well, this was up in pre-market. This was moving around in pre-market. Let's say you were able to trade it. Let's say you got OTC data, whatever it is. What's the trend of this stock the hour before the market opens, the hour and a half before the market opens, the 2 hours before the market opens? What's the trend? Down, right? And when a stock is trending down, what type of pressure are we seeing more of? Buying pressure? Are we seeing more selling pressure? What do we got? Selling, right? So right away, like I'm not so jumpy to trade this stock if it pops to begin. I got to see support build. I got to see this break over resistance that may have been support previously. Shooting from the hip here on this one. So I'll get the book map open in just a bit, but this created one dip point at first. And once it broke under it here, it looks like it just held well under it. I'm just drawing one line there for right now at 165 as like a small chart level maybe. This is just a trend down. Not really any like clear level here to work off of. Otherwise, again, if you're focused on your North Stars here for a cheap stock like this, I would go 50-cent levels now. So like, 150, then $2, then 250 above, et cetera, right? All right, so what do we got? Let's take a look on the heat map here. And again, I have this turned off. I didn't have this on before, so let's see what it looked like. Well, no surprise, we had a resistance at $2, North Star, 20,000 plus share seller. That stays out there going into the open. There really isn't a long orange line that's acting as support. This shows up, but that's at 8:30. It breaks below there, drops down more before the open. If I'm more focused on the hour and a half prior to 9:30, even this doesn't stand out too much. You got a little spike of volume here. What is that at, like 180, 179 or so? Maybe that could create a level, but I would want a even more sharp spike here, even more notable size. But I guess you have a little volume there at like 179, 180. Not much. Nothing really too impressive on this graph. There's nothing that's like that impressive to me so far throughout this whole pre-market. Now, when the market opens up, let's say, we wait the first 5 minutes. This doesn't get halted right away here. I was going to check to see if this got halted. So this didn't get halted right away. It almost looked like it did. Well, resistance at 2, like we said. That stays there, right? That's there. Still not much that stood out here. I mean, the only thing is, like, again, if you're just trusting your 150 level to begin, it breaks under, it breaks back over. Nice move. It gets the entry. It gets you an entry at 150. Now let me ask our members here at least, where do we see a sharper spike of volume at least, at this point? Is there a more, notable spike or pyramid or stack of volume that you see on that far right column? What do we got? 158, 160, 166. So mixed bag of answers here, my friends. I'd probably say right around this area, right around here, 159-ish, 160-ish, right there, right? So over time, it ends up building off of that and then pops. So at least from there, it begins to give you a much better push. But geez, this thing, once it ran up, what happened from there? Because I'm more interested afterwards, because this got halted a couple times, right? Got halted, I think, here. Oh, it may have just been one halt. This looks like it's even two. All right, so this is just one halt, but nevertheless, for as much as it runs up, 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 well, hey, if you were able to trade this stock after 10 o'clock in the morning, then you had a little time to prep this chart, figure out where your levels were. $2, of course, I'm focused in on right now. Point being is that when this reopened up off of the halt, we go over this in class as well. I teach this more within the phase 2 curriculum here. We just covered actually just this past month in July how to trade halts. Just went over this whole thing in detail, but basically to show you here, the halt print. We talk about the opening halt print, and that becomes a clear level to work off of. So that was at 243, $2.43 right here. Well, over time, it fails to hold over that, but it gives you an entry here at $2 first, gives you that under and over, steps under 2 on the same candle, breaks back over 2. You want to go with the momentum when it breaks through that big level on the way, up, on the way back up. So this was a great entry you could have had on the PSIG, moved up towards that opening print, and then, this is where it gets dicey. So it tries to pop higher, it breaks above that halt print, and this is where we need to see resistance flip. We got to have the stock play nice, to what we're looking for here. Resistance, once it gets broken through, not only should be support, it needs to be support. This made a pretty extensive run up already, much like the GNLN, right? We saw that keep moving on up. Well, the same to be said here, but in this case, off of a trading halt, this creates such a clear level to work off of that it's either yes or no. It's either going to hold above this and run, or it's just not gonna. So the fact it pulls back very quickly, it may have popped up higher first. Looks like it popped up higher. So things were looking even good a year, and then it slashes back down. When it has that crazy type of pullback, it was looking good. Even on this candle before it tanked, it looks like it popped up. When it comes back down that fast and out of freaking nowhere, it's like, all right, well, clearly it's either going to 3 or it's slicing back under this. So once it slices back under this, it's up to you. You have the choice to try and see if that could break back above it. Maybe it can and run higher, but you got to play that the same way that you play this. It's either going to do it or it's not going to do it, right? Yes or no. And I know a lot of us here have come to CTU with issues about getting stopped out and getting stopped out too frequently. You're setting your stops too tight. To me, every trade begins with the entry. So before I even go into you setting your stops, let's talk about you setting your entries up. Well, this is a great example, much like that last one, as far as why we need to keep our stops tight. Because if we're taking a pretty tight entry in accordance to the level, then we have a little room to either see yes or no. But once it pulls back below that level, you should have a pretty good idea of no. So, right here, could it have been? Maybe. But then if it comes right back down, and once it does that, that's not good, right? So you don't want to hang into this trade any longer than you need to be. Not only does it lose you money, but then it loses you time from trying to realize other great buying opportunities that could be out there throughout the day. So, where my bread got buttered here today was on PLTR, and I wasn't even expecting it to be like a great, perfect move. I'm happy that it happened, but quite frankly, for such a strong moving stock, much like the Bitcoin stocks, I don't like shorting. I like shorting. I don't like going counter trend. Put it that way, right? PLTR has been a freaking monster this week. Eventually, it's going to come back down, right? Eventually, it'll pull back, have a consolidation. I know that. As someone not trying to go counter trend, I at least know that eventually this won't create a good buying opportunity, right? It's like the crypto stocks. I personally just like to be a buyer in those trades. I'm not going to be as jumpy to short them. There are days where they provide good shorts, but you don't see me in those trades. That's all right. Everyone has their own cup of tea. Everyone likes their own cup of coffee a different way. I got a little maple syrup in mine right now. That nice little organic maple syrup recently. So, just to mention here, right? Well, I was looking for a move up on PLTR to start. This popped to begin the morning. Things were looking good to begin. We got resistance at $31 as a whole number level. So I took 2 trades on this. I went break even, and then I went short. So PLTR, you could just see, and this is very evident really from the CVP column again, just massive spike of volume. I love this. This is everything I look for. This is a much more refined, notable spike, at least I should say. All right, so broke above this as resistance, moved up. Hey, at this point in time, I'm thinking resistance flips to support. Under, over, I jump in long right here. Okay. Things are looking okay. I have a little iceberg here. Resistance next to 32. The street loves PLTR. All's well here. Pulls back though. And again, like we taught in freaking class earlier, I'm basically giving the phase 1 class away for free during this traders talk today. But we talked about core charting principles. And granted, I know that a lot of us, not everyone, but I know that a lot of us come to CTU with a number of years experience, right? So you probably understand this coming into CTU to start, but resistance should flip to support. So it tried it here. And when it's failing to break higher at this point, well, it comes back down. That's not ideal. Like this pullback here is not ideal for me on my long. So I'm thinking what I was teaching to you earlier, like this either needs to break higher or I'm going break even, right? And that's what happened. I went +1 on this damn thing just because it shook back down and moved back up, like maybe one more life, comes back down immediately afterwards. I just yanked the trade out. Now at that point though, I don't, well, you could just tell from how I said it earlier, I definitely don't like going counter trend, but I even more so, I'm not a fan of just going long, going short, going long, going short, just flopping around like a fish on this chart. Like I'm just sticking with one direction. And if it's not going to give me that direction, then I'll move on to another trade. Then I'll look for a deeper pullback, as a buyer. I normally do that. With how this stuck out to me, I'm thinking if it's not going to break higher from here, and if it's going to, continue to hold under this, this actually could be not buying as much as I thought it would be at first. Green, right? Well, you flip your mind around, you flip your head around a little bit. So I was looking for a short, and I took this on smaller size at least, but I jumped in pretty quickly afterwards, and I thankfully didn't get stopped out as it popped back up a little bit. But it pulled back, and I knew once I had this drop back down, I was in a pretty good shape, I was in pretty good shape. I didn't really know what my game plan was on the exit though. That's the thing. Like I took the entry because it was a damn big level, and I'm thinking if it's going to be a big move shortly after, I could probably get 50 cents. But that's a very loose-ended, abstract game plan. Maybe it could drop down to the 30 price, but I'm more bullish internally. Naturally, I should say. Naturally, I'm more bullish. So, and I'm thinking like, oh shit, what if this, pops back up suddenly, and all of a sudden I waste a good profit. So, with how fast this dropped, I took half my position out right at 30.50 just to take half out. I felt great there, and it popped back up, it pulled back, and then like right here as it dragged down here, I just said the hell with it. I got out on the second half of that position because I didn't want to try and waste unrealized profit. I was at 0 on my morning. I took a break even earlier on the long. And then even before that, I had a break even on MRIN. It was a clean break even to begin my market open session there. So I just wanted to start the morning off with the profit, right? I wasn't as confident about a drop off, but damn, do I wish I held on to that, right? Happens. So PLTR did drop pretty far down. Really briefly for all of our students, one more time, little pop quiz like we went over earlier. What time do we typically expect reversals? What time do we typically expect stocks to pull back, retrace, go the other way? I got some questions that came in on the chat board too, which I'll get to. 10:30, right? Rhonda and Robert, Tim, Laureen, all of us, right? So yeah, I mean, in terms of having a perfect game plan, perhaps I could have held on longer in accordance to the cyber clock, because right around 10:30, it broke lower later on, but it based out there, right? It really good trade in accordance to that cyber clock. But I'm just kind of mentioning that after the fact. I was happy to have a profit to begin anyway. So otherwise, Again, we went over the SOUN already. We talked about the PSIG already. Oh, the INDO. I want to dig into that. I know one of our students was saying earlier, I was trying to chat him before on the side, Lawrence, just about this trade. He just made a comment about like getting out too soon. This is easy to go over after the fact, right? You know that. I know that. I want you to know that I know that. But as far as like, hey, what could we have done more to hold on? Well, sometimes the answer is nothing. Sometimes the answer is like, well, you definitely should have gotten out there and moved back up later on, but maybe you could jump back in, right? And that's the answer to anyone on a very abstract basis. But to help Lawrence out here, I want to go over this INDO trade, and then we'll jump to the chat. We got some questions from chat before I see those there. So, basically, I think Lawrence had gotten in on this trade right at 367 or so. Lawrence, was it? And got out at like 387, was it roughly? I want to just take a look at his trade that he had posted before. Yeah, 377 out at 388. That's what it was. So practically in this area, right? We started Trader's Talk at 12 o'clock. So here it is at 11 o'clock in the morning here. Okay. Well, you have great reason to sell, my friend, because get in at 377, probably just in this area here. You are playing with fire a little bit, right? And I just say that on the entry price. I want to dig further into psychology next in just a bit, because I tried asking Lawrence earlier, just as far as like how much was he up or down before this trade? Because hey, if your P&L is at zero, if your P&L is down, if it's negative, then you should be playing good defense to essentially be playing good offense. Take the smaller wins, get out sooner than you would later, right? Let's say if you have a cushion underneath you already and it's 11:15 in the morning, that is where I have to just say to everyone, right? Everyone, doesn't matter who it is, Lawrence, Kathleen, Leda, Grant, John, Brian, whoever, just anyone, that if you have a comfortable cushion underneath you already, this is like playing with free money. If you get stopped at break even, you lose nothing, and that's it. If you hang on to the trade and it pops and it runs the way you thought it might possibly could, then obviously you're going to walk out a much larger winner, right? I don't do this when my P&L is at zero. I don't do this when I'm down. That's why I left too much money on the table on PLTR short, right? It's literally what I just said. Now, this is a little bit later on in the morning, though. So let's say Lawrence had built up some cushion money. Lawrence probably profits nearly every day in our room. So just to say, let's say he's up a few hundred. Okay. Well, again, if he ends up going break even, who cares? You don't lose anything, right? That's the mindset that we should have. Because the more that we're like that, then eventually we learn to hold on longer on given circumstances. And we say, okay, well, hey, this works out more often than not. Hey, for the times I do hold in on these patterns, it can lead to a better move. As far as like these icebergs showing, though, there's great reason to get out, though. There's actually 3 icebergs here. One got pulled, and then there are still 2 showing here. Looks like part of the second one gets pulled here, though. Still, though, you count this area 4 and 390 as your resistance. That is clearly a big level to work off of. So it's all about perspective, but hey, if he had some cushion money built up within him, perhaps that's something you hold on to a little bit longer. But either way, I should say, let's say if it breaks above this resistance, then we just want to ensure that resistance flips into support, right? And look what is happening right now live, right? I mean, I say it all the time in class. I don't make this stuff up. I just follow it. So, this is where, hey, even if you got out, a little too soon, popped up, oh no. It's like, hey, resistance became support, didn't it? Hey, this made a big move back up, didn't it? So, that's where ultimately, regardless, it's to just mention, there could always be another entry. Now, Lawrence knows that because, again, just I know how he trades and I know he's successful just to boot. So it's not just how he trades, it's that he actually makes money. Like he's actually a human in a room that makes money on a near everyday basis. I know that for a fact. So that's where I'll say to him, all right, well, it's up to him. If he had some built up profit underneath him already, then that's the type of trade if I go break even on and I don't make that 11-cent profit that he did make, I just don't really think much of it. I just say, the hell with it. I still have that same money I walked into the trade with from before. I still made my 500 on the morning already. But hey, if it keeps going up, 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 then you feel great about it afterwards. It's a little extra gift. It's Christmas in August, right? But otherwise, whether you hold on or not, there could still be another trade later on anyway here, right? Resistance flip, bam, popping right back up for another 85 cents, it looks like, right? Really quick before we finish up traders talk here, did anyone jump into this trade at least just before? There we go. Several times since. Well, here, this is where I'll say you just need one, right? At this point right now, this is where you just need one, because once it just jumps from resistance to support, you're just either expecting this to continue to be support, or you see where it could go next, go to next, right? All right, so I do want to jump to some chat right now, at least before we finish. I think it was a question. I think it was. I don't want to just skip over, though, anything. Rhonda here in chat saying, what do you think about SOUN reversal at $5? Well, that's what we were mentioning before, right? That resistance from earlier becoming support. That was the next move on that trade. That's exactly what we discussed in class, in our phase 1 class, right? And look at this. This thing, are you kidding me? It looks like it nipped it. It looks like it nipped it by a penny right there, right? A little touch under and right back over. So this gives you everything that you would want to see in terms of expecting a bounce. Now, question is, does this continue to go higher? It's back to the next level that I drew already here. If it breaks above that later on, then there's a case to see higher highs. But that's where I simply say at first, this resistance should become support, right? Should. So ultimately, that's what happened on that one. Rhonda took the trade. Very nice. Right off of 5. Beautiful. Hey, you know what? Working out right now for you, and I'm rooting it on. I'm just pointing out, like, hey, what if it were to pull back here, right? If it doesn't go up to 520? Hey, the more tests it, it's going to break. So you do want to just keep that in mind. But the first test of this to act as support is the best test to see it act as support. That's the mindset going in. So really nice entry from Rhonda right there. Larry here in chat. Got the Iceman here in sin. I think I heard you say to Fausto this morning about not trading OTC stocks. Might I ask why? I kind of group them with like pink sheet stocks, bulletin board stocks, like OTC and then OTCBB. It's kind of like, old school slang right there, I guess, so to say. But just to mention that I don't want to say they trade differently. They just require different data. They're not NASDAQ. They're not New York Stock Exchange. They're not Amex. They're not on a major stock exchange. So if you do want to pick Fausto's brain more on that yourself, he can give you a more detailed answer, at least from his 35 years experience. My belief would be that if a stock is listed on a major exchange, there's likely more people trading it, and there's likely going to be easier icebergs to see. But ask him that, and he'll give you his answer though for sure. But just since I've been employed by him in 2014, it's like we've never ever traded OTC stocks. I was like one of the first lessons I learned back in like the retro classes back then. But to say that, ultimately NASDAQ, Amex, NYSE, that's what we'll primarily focus on. That PSIG threw me for a loop. So that's the one that was in question, right? That was the OTC earlier. Now somehow it's NASDAQ. I guess that's the news that may have come out. That is the first time I've seen something like that happen. Maybe ever. Maybe ever. So I bring this to your attention because, like, if you were following this and, you have delayed data, you don't have the proper data on your platform. It's backed up by 15 minutes. It's delayed. You can't trade it then, right? It makes it very difficult for you to try and trade it with your normal go-to system, right? I don't think this will ever really happen again between you and me. And if it does, maybe once in the next 10 years, probably, statistically speaking. But that's where I'll just tell you, if that's the case, then try and do your best internally, mentally, to just toss this in the paper shredder, toss it down the paper shredder, and just move on to another stock. Yeah, you missed out on a run. I missed out on that run. there are other stocks that we could trade though, right? And I'm not just saying that to Larry. I'm saying that to everyone here altogether because it's easy to get caught up in our own feelings. Let's just put it that way, right? And let's just put it that way to conclude. It's easy to get pissed off that we missed out on a runner. It's like, oh, I should have taken that. It's like, guys, come on. Like, we're going to find a runner in like the next 10 minutes and we're going to make money on it. So, just going back to, the other trades, Rhonda just before on the SOUN, we just had the, what was it? The other one just before, freaking INDO just taken off again. There's other stocks moving at any point throughout the day. And, with that, that's where we're going to just practically finish up, at least here for Traders Talk. So, folks, if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me over a quick email, josh@ctutrading.com. Really quick, actually, from Larry as we finish up there. What's the easiest way to identify them? It's like literally this. Look, like on TradeStation, I'm speaking TradeStation specific, on top left of your chart, should just see Amex, right? Like for INDO, SOUN, NASDAQ, obviously our good friend Palantir, NYSE. So earlier this morning, PSIG said OTC. Like, I'm not seeing things here, folks. I'm not just making things up. It said OTC earlier, right? So that I don't think has ever happened in the 10 years I've been employed by Fausto. So I wouldn't expect for that to happen sooner than later, right? Probably later than sooner for that to happen again. But with that in mind, feel free to shoot me over any questions, folks. I just typed my email address to all of us here in chat, josh@ctutrading.com. Now, if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc., we do this workshop each and every Monday now, each and every Monday afternoon, 12 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to be jumping on the mic here each and every week on Mondays now. Now, if you wanted to join us inside our live trading room, scan that QR code with your phone, with your camera on the top left. It's popping up there on the top left right there. It says free live workshop. Just scan that QR code right there to join us all throughout today, all throughout this given week. And, we just continue the audio broadcast later on at 3 o'clock Eastern time, final hour before the market closes up. Look forward to seeing us all there. But, otherwise, be a friend, tell a friend that we got a YouTube channel here at CyberTradingU. We go live each and every morning right there, Fausto with the morning meeting. And, again, each and every Monday we do a live workshop here. So with that said, folks, we hope you enjoy, and we look forward to having you inside our live trading room. For Grant, Larry, Leda, Kathleen, all of us there in chat right now. Stay tuned. Our next broadcast will just be later on today, coming up at 2:30. I'll talk to everybody then. Take care.